Hey guys, it is Melissa and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about the missing Zaharias children. And if you're like me, you're probably like, what are you talking about? I've never really heard about that case. And that's a really sad situation because these children have been missing for 30 years. And they're out there and they are living their lives and nobody even knows if they know that they're missing. I was scrolling Facebook and I was just looking across some of my normal groups that I'm involved in, and True Crime Society is a group that I really like. It's just regular folks sharing stories, and it's a private space where you can actually talk about a case, but you're not publicly getting involved in anyone's real life. And so I really like it because you can really find out a lot of great information, and it's just really good caring people. So I'll make sure I link that down for you guys below. And so somebody posted a video that was done by the National Center for Missing Children. And it was a video that was done by the father, Louis Zaharias. And hey guys, this is just a quick little edit that I'm throwing in here. His name is Luis. The father's name is, see, I just did it again. The father's name is Louis. And I don't know why I keep saying Luis, but it's Louis. So apologies. Now you guys will just, the whole time, every time you hear me say Luis, just be like. And it is probably one of the best done videos I've ever seen. I'm not a big crier. This video brought tears to my eyes multiple times. Like, it took me a minute to get going this morning because I was like, I'm just so sad. And it's very well done. So I'm going to link that down for you guys as well. The thing is that Lisa Mae was barely a year old. Christopher was 3 years old. And their mother, Susan, took them from their father. There were allegations that were made against each of them. And what we do know is that Luis has gone to court and 100% proven that he was in no way a threat or harm to those children, that these allegations were not true, and that her family is helping her. And it's very obvious that they're out there protecting her and keeping her children away from their father. Still to this day, and they're in their 30s. So we're going to jump into the video. We're going to talk about this case, and I just want to just give you guys a quick little thought from me, okay? I in no way believe in this. I am one of those parents that 100% believes that you are not allowed to ever take a child from their parent. It's not okay. It's not right. And I've dealt with some things in my life and I've gotten flack on that one because one of my children is with me 100% full time. And for me to do that was very difficult because I don't think that that's okay on a normal basis. And I think that there has to be really extreme circumstances where you remove one child from the parent. And to know that that is so hard to do, and to know what a difficult process it is to go through the court system. It's a very long process. It doesn't matter what facts or what proof you have. It's a very long process. And I know that back in the 1980s that things were different. But I don't understand how somebody doesn't use the resources. If you have the resources and enough money to fly yourself off to wherever and hide for 30 years, then you have enough resources to get a lawyer and go to court and prove allegations if you feel that it's correct and that person should have limited contact. But what I would never in my life do, it would not matter how mad I was at the other person, how little I felt of them, I would never, ever have a parent not know where their child was or not know what their child was doing in life. Can you imagine, as a parent, we all think about what our kids are going to be like when they get older. Are they going to be rock stars? Are they going to have children? Are they going to, you want to know everything about them. Are they going to turn into drug addicts? Are they going to go to jail? Are they going to go to college? Honestly, you worry so much. I can't imagine not knowing. And so I just have a hard time with this, and I just don't think it's okay. I know that you can be scared, and I know that things can happen, and you can worry about your children more than you worry about your heart and soul. But you have to remember the other parent does too. And there are other recourses besides kidnapping, because that's not okay. And it's just not. So I feel my heart and soul for Luis. He is their father, and to not even know what they look like anymore, that's not okay. So we're going to jump into the video, guys, and we're going to try and share this because they have traveled all over the U.S. and somebody somewhere knows them. They know them. They literally know them. And we just want to try and help raise awareness, guys. So much love to everyone, and let's hop right into the video. Okay, so first I want to talk about Susan. And I'm going to give you a little bit of character traits about herself, things that they said about her, because even though it's been 30 years, people change, but like some of their things might still be the same. So she was actually born December 5th of 1959 in New Mexico. Her parents were Norma Jean and Jay Gamble. And they actually lived in Winnetka, Oklahoma. And apparently at some point in time, they'd actually come to California and obviously New Mexico because that's where she was born. Eventually, her mother and father did retire back to Winnetka. Her parents had 3 children. So there was Susan, her sister Juliana, who is now married and goes by the name of Juliana Nozal. And then her brother, which was John Gamble, and he is also married to his wife Carolyn. Now there are some grandchildren and great-grandchildren, but let's go ahead and focus on Susan. So there were some things that were noted about Susan back then in the 1980s that she was pretty good on computers. She did not like to read. She was really into crosswords, 1940s movies. She loved the beach. She liked hot weather. She did not like to be cold. Now, she did have a drug problem back then, okay? And this was later confirmed because that was one of the things I wanted to really look into was, were these allegations against her correct and proven? And were the allegations against the father correct, incorrect, proven, or whatsoever? So they did investigations back then and since then, and it has been confirmed that she did have a problem with drugs. And apparently it was mostly cocaine, methamphetamine, and not that, I mean, like, I'm just going to be honest, though. It was explained as more high-end drug use, and I think everyone knows what I mean. There's drug addicts and there's drug addicts. Sorry, it is what it is. I'm not a drug addict, but you know the difference. But she had a problem, okay? She had been arrested a couple times. She had some petty charges. And this wasn't going very well for her. This was a drug problem that she was dealing with. And it was starting to make her very paranoid. Now, Louis, the father, was from New York. And he described himself as kind of a bad boy when he was younger. He got in a lot of trouble. He got into fights. His father left when he was very young, and he got himself into some issues. At some point, he moved to California to pursue law school, and he was also having some problems with drugs, with cocaine and things like that. And he described Sue as being kind of a saving grace for him, that she came into his life and she was a light, and that she helped him when he was starting to mess up. He was going to lose law school and everything going on. This was way before they had children. And she actually helped him get into a rehab and get himself together. And he just really thanked her for that because he felt his life could have gone differently if she hadn't been there. And everyone's always comments in the comments of everything I've watched regarding this case about how he still speaks about her with love, despite the fact that she took his children. He really loved her and cared about her, that she was his best friend for 10 years, and that he just couldn't understand why she would leave, that he would have helped her. He would have done anything to help her and to fix anything with her. So apparently this drug problem started happening. And so in the beginning, and I don't know how to quite say this, she came from a family in Oklahoma, and they seemed to be a little well-to-do off, really known in the community. And he came from New York, and he wasn't really a good boy. And the family didn't, it appeared from what he said, that her family was not fond of him, that he wasn't the right fit. In a lot of ways, they just weren't really like, he's not good enough for you. Like, they called him a grease ball. So there were a lot of issues, and that was proven as well. There were letters that Susan had written to her parents saying, I don't understand, he's my husband. I love him. I care about him. How would you feel if you were invited to dinner but told to leave your husband behind? Like, I need you to support me and love me. And just goes on and on about how Lou's, and I guess he goes by Lou a lot, so I'm just going to call him Lou. So Lou, which is what he goes by, his mother was being like super supportive. She was helping them out financially. She was just really going above and beyond. And she was basically telling her family, like, why can't you be like Lou's mom? Like, they love me. They support me. They want the best for me. And we're trying to do the best that we can. So it appears that as their children was born, that Sue was really defending Lou and was just like, no, he's my husband. I love him. We have a great life going, and wanted her family to love him. But what appears to have happened is that her drug problem started to get worse, and she was becoming really paranoid. And as her and Lou were starting to argue, it seems that she started to get scared that he was going to take the children. They started to talk about divorce, and she must have started to panic. There are reports that prior to her disappearing, that she was doing things like kind of playing with her name. Like instead of she was using her middle name as her first name. She was using Gamel and Zaharias. Like she was playing around with her name, kind of maybe thinking about leaving. There's also reports that in February of 1987, while Lou was at law school or a conference or something, that she might have planned to leave with the children at that time, but Lou had come home early from that trip and it didn't happen. So on the night of November 19th, 1987, they had already agreed that they were going to divorce. They had already figured out what was going to happen with custody. They had already made all these allegations against each other. And Sue wanted sole custody. And it was just a mess. But they already had everything kind of figured out. But Sue did not like it. She wanted the children. And it appears that they got into an argument the night before. Lou left the house for a little bit. He came back. He kissed the children goodnight. And then he went to bed. He got up early in the morning and went to work. In his report, he says that on that day that Sue actually pushed his mother down the stairs and took off with the children. I didn't see that about his mother anywhere else. But if he says that's what happened, that's what happened. From what investigators were able to figure out, she has family kind of all over the U.S. in a bunch of different cities and states. But what appears is that she immediately went to Oklahoma. And when she went to Oklahoma, she stayed with her aunt, Mrs. Can. And then from there, she went to her grandmother's house. When she was at the grandmother's house, she did have contact with Lou at this point. And it was minimal contact. And he was like, hey, like, come back. And she was trying to negotiate a little bit. And he's like, okay, like, just come back. We'll just do the court order. It's like first, third, and fifth, whatever the court order was. Like, he's like, just come back. Like, we'll figure it out. And she was not having any of it. From Oklahoma, from what they figured out, she went to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is where her sister Juliana lives. And everything says that they were super, super, super close. Now, she stayed there in Pittsburgh with Juliana and her husband, John Nozal, for 3 months. And her parents were there. So she wasn't close with her parents anymore after her and Lou were married. But I think it was one of those like where they weren't close then, but then they rekindled and everything was fine because they were obviously helping her. There's no way you could disappear for 30 years and not have your parents helping her. Obviously, she went from their house to their house. But then at some point in time, they put her on a plane. And that's where it goes cold. Their investigators, so let me give you a little bit of information. Lou actually ended up hiring a private investigator. So he has spent over $1 million over the last 30 years. This has been his life work. There's a Facebook page that is there. He is just, and he's active. He was literally posting yesterday on this Facebook page. Like he is trying to find his children. And there was a message on the Facebook group on April 26th or 29th that said that there's a possible lead that came in from the Facebook page. So fingers crossed that there might actually be a little bit of a lead in this case. So he actually hired Philip Klein of Klein Investigations. And they went in, this was really helpful to know because this is where I was able to get a lot of information. They went back and they fully verified everything. They went back and they checked the court records. They talked to friends, family, verified that there was a drug problem going on, that she did take off with the children, that the allegations against Lou were not correct. There was reports that she stayed in a domestic violence shelter. There was a lot going on, but they were able to prove that Lou in no way was a harm to him or his children. He did not have a drug problem. He was not harming them, that there wasn't any really valid reason for her to take her children away other than that she wanted them. So when Philip Klein got involved, they were able to, when they went to Oklahoma and they started questioning everyone, they believe that they might have found a former employer of hers and even a former residence, but there's not any sign of them now. Now, here's where everything starts getting stonewalled. Her family. Okay. If your daughter wanted to disappear with her 2 children, wouldn't you want to be in contact with her to make sure she's okay? So if you're not in contact with her and you have no idea where she is, wouldn't you be campaigning to find her? I would be. Sure, let's say it's my sister and she, something's happening and she needs to get away. Yeah, I'm going to give her some privacy for a minute, but I want an emergency phone number. I want to, what happens with something happens with our family? How do I reach you to tell you? There's no way you don't have a way to contact. And if it got to a point and it had been so many years and my sister wasn't reaching out to anyone, I would start putting it on the news. Hey, where are you? Did something happen to you? Did somebody take you? Are you in a basement somewhere? They're not doing anything. And in fact, they're kind of shitty about it. Don't know. Yeah, sorry. So there is a little bit of help that is going to, now in this day and age, that's going to come great handy. Because of the prior arrest that Susan had, they do have her fingerprints. So it's kind of weird that in 30 years, she had a prior drug problem. It's kind of crazy how she's been completely off the radar because they have her fingerprints. So if she had been arrested or if she tried to get cleared for a job or anything like that, they would need her fingerprints. So that hasn't been. In 2016, they were able to enter into NamUs partial fingerprints from Christopher and DNA from Lisa. And they've also submitted the DNA to 23andMe and the other ancestry websites because genealogy. Okay, so all it's going to take is for someone to turn in their DNA that is associated with Lisa and they're going to be able to find them. And they're just waiting for that to happen. All it takes is for Christopher to want to go and get bonded for a job, maybe he wants to be involved in something or all of these things, these whatever birth certificates they're using, whatever social security numbers they're using, this starts to catch up. The Social Security Administration has been doing a lot of clearing of their databases. So eventually this is going to happen. Something's going to pop and it's not going to make sense because they're not using the real names. There's also a little bit of further proof from the family of Susan that they know where they're at because in January of 2016, Susan's mother, Norma Jean Dotson, passed away. Her father, Jay Gamble, is still living. And in the obituary, they list the surviving members. And listed in there is Susan and her two children, Lisa and Christopher. Now, of course, this could have been, imagine if they didn't know, what do you write? You don't want to put a memory of because you don't know where they're at. And so, of course, you're going to list them. But it did make everyone wonder since they did it in the surviving rather than a second line that says, and missing or some, I don't know, some wording you could have used that wouldn't have put that they're surviving because you don't know where they're at. So I don't know. That was kind of a toss up, but it did renew interest in the case and did renew back to the family. Hey, you guys know where they're at. She was so close with her sister. Hey guys, I'm editing, so I don't know how to edit this in without just recording another video. One of the things that came up is that when the funeral happened for the mother, of course the investigators were aware of this, so they made sure they had surveillance on the funeral. Now at the funeral, they did not see anyone that looked like Susan or Lisa or Christopher. However, according to the funeral home, at midnight, after hours, this was way late, there was a woman who came in to see the body. And this woman was apparently in her 50s and they couldn't get a good look at her. She had a hoodie on. They think it was her. It kind of makes sense. And then it kind of led to further question that Christopher and Lisa weren't with her. So nobody knows if Christopher and Lisa know. I'm going to make sure that I put down below the Vanished podcast because I just think that it's so full of so much information. I'm always so impressed by their research that they do on cases. It's really good. And I don't want to put all of it in. Obviously, there's so much work that they did that I want to make sure you guys actually go listen to that because you learn a lot about this case. As well as I'm going to make sure that I share Lou's message. There's 2 videos of him talking about his children and they're just beautiful. I will share the link to the Facebook group down below as well as the True Crime Society that I came across. I do want to, this is something that I learned really clearly from the very beginning when I ever started joining groups is that there's a fine line between what I do with reporting missing cases and what some people will do, and they will actually like insert themselves into a case and start contacting people. Don't do that, okay? Please don't ever do that from any case that I've ever shared. Please. That is wrong. That's not okay. If you want to make a video to raise awareness or you want to share a post, absolutely. But to go out and personally contact people and call them names, accuse them of things that it's not your business, don't do that. That doesn't help in any way. I'm not a fan of people who do that. So just FYI, it's not cool with me ever. So I think that's all I have for this. I'm going to make sure and insert as many pictures as I can find. I'm going to try to put in the videos. I don't know if they're copyrighted until I upload because I don't know how to check. I'm still figuring everything out. So hopefully those videos are in there for you guys. And if not, everything is linked down below. I thank you guys again so much from the bottom of my heart for all your support. I'm sorry that like I can literally feel that I'm kind of like, my mood is like low. This case really bothers me. I feel just horrible. I can't imagine for 30 years knowing that my child was out there. Like, he has done everything he can to try and find them. Breaks my heart. So do me a favor, guys. Hug your babies, hug your loves. Life is literally so precious. And I appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart. Thank you again so much for watching. And I'll talk to you guys soon.